We move now to developments in Zambia, where copper is increasingly being viewed as one of the most strategic commodities of the global energy transition. For Zambia specifically, which is Africa's second largest copper producer, this presents a rather significant opportunity to boost export earnings, attract investment, and strengthen public finances. But for Zambian economist Kelvin Chisanga, high copper prices alone do not automatically translate into lower living costs or improved welfare for the citizens of Zambia. He says the key challenge is ensuring that mining revenues are channeled into productive investments, the type of investments that create jobs and broaden economic opportunities beyond mining. He joins us now. A very good evening to you, Calvin. Good to have you with us on Africa in Business.
Thank you so much. Good evening to you as well.
I mean, looking at Zambia here, the country is Africa's second largest copper producer. But to try and paint the picture, what is the scale of copper's importance to Zambia?
Thank you so much for that question. We understand pretty very well that Zambia's economy is centered on mining, and copper is a main predominant items that we basically get from the mining interplay. And obviously, we understand pretty very well that copper accounts for approximately 75% of Zambia's export. And not only that, also the baseline economy in Zambia is pretty much mining, which actually cascade effect into other complementary services or complementary sectors of the economy. So it's a main key pillar that basically play out a composition fact of economic stability. So it's a stabilizer for our activities here in Zambia. And again, we have seen from time to time, we are also developing many other minerals which are also coming to complement, but copper has still remained a very important aspect for us because just building up everything from that perspective.
And how significant is the current copper market for Zambia's economic outlook?
Okay, so the Zambian case has been standing on favorable copper price, which is quite an important aspect we have seen the global market in as far as demand is concerned. The global demand for copper has been driven mainly by technological aspect, especially when you look at the green technology or any transition process which we are seeing taking place at global level. With regards to electric vehicles production, we are talking of also renewable energy infrastructure as well as industrial expansion. So with Zambia's prominent feature in the domestic situation, we seem to be very much favorable from there. But at global level, we are standing to be the producer or the supplier market in terms of what the market is demanding today. And much to this also, on the continent of Africa, we are talking of about being a second producer in the continent, meaning we have an opportunity to have a conventional public sector support through copper. And even when we look at the tax basket, copper plays a critical role. When copper is performing very well in the Zambian case, it means even the local currency kwacha will perform quite relatively very well. So it's a strong for what we do in terms of economic growth, in terms of attracting more business interplay and the investment activities as well. So copper has been proven to be an important commodity for Zambia to drive many economic aspects, including even aspects to do with social welfare, education, health, even supporting other complementary sectors such as agriculture and tourism from that perspective as well.
I mean, if you look at a recent report by the World Bank as well as the African Development Bank, they've highlighted that copper contributes largely to the mining contribution of the country's GDP, which sits between 12 and 15%. But you've made a really interesting observation in a statement. You said the high copper prices alone don't necessarily translate to lower living costs or revenues that need to be channeled into productive investments that can create jobs. So your proposition is that even though, Zambia is the second largest producer of copper on the continent, that it's such a huge contributor to the country's GDP and, over around 70 or so percent of the export market, that this is not necessarily translating into people's day-to-day lives. Break this down for us.
Okay, so when you look at the mining sector in the Zambian case, obviously with the demand for going toward the 3 million metric tons of productive output, which has been set as a target by central government, well, we understand very well that when copper performs very well, it brings about key economic effects in Kwacha and in many others, including even breeding job creation, also bringing to support the national budget as well. So the reason why it does not translate into lowering the cost of living, because the technological advancement that are being taken with the mining aspect in terms of activities are not taking more people to actually exposed to some of these opportunities that are basically coming or emerging to the mining, meaning despite it being the biggest fundamental aspect of the economy, it does not get a lot of people to be employed there. So the transmission mechanism in terms of employment, in terms of all these other factors, they do not have a direct filter through, meaning we only get to have a larger benefit on macroeconomic levels where we're speaking of the GDP being pushed because of the numbers that come from the mining sector. But again, with a breeding process of good effect around SME, where they are able also to interplay into businesses and aggregation of some sort within the mining sector. It has got that slowed down or slow, pass-through aspect. Again, the bigger part is where now we are trying to strengthen energy infrastructure using copper mining tax receipts, where it's also coming to social welfare, building up education centers as well as skills development from that perspective.
And so what would be, Mr. Chisanga, the infrastructure and policy reforms that are needed in order to unlock the sector's full potential?
Okay, so we need to do value addition, which is the main key factor that we need to drive going forward, because all this time we have actually been exporting low export commodity, which is not adding value to what we should be able to see. Because again, if we are to gear up into value addition or vertical integration processing, meaning we can now have people to work in those processing, and again need to also help to change the narrative for value retention, because what has been happening in the Zambian case is that the copper sales does not eat back into the national economy, meaning we only get to have small things like tax being paid to Zambia, then the money that need to run production, paying workers and all that, that's what actually happens. But the larger chunk of profit of that copper is sustained somewhere. So if we can reshape how we work out, a baseline of how sales are being protected from there, meaning whatever is sold out there, it should eat back into our national treasury. Mm-hmm. Then that's when they can now look at repatriation to the shareholders out there and all that. But it's not the case as it is right now. So as we know, copper provides a strong fortitude of economic backbone for Zambia. So if we are to realign that, can also be able to be helpful in essence. And also work on taxation formula, because the taxation also has been changing for some time, but we have a very consistent policy regime which has sustained for the past 3 years now.
And just as we close off this evening, there is a real move on the African continent. We've seen that increasingly with recent developments towards beneficiation. Is Zambia moving towards that direction as well?
Yes, it is a strong focus or strong policy aspiration that we need to look at local processing, because that is where we can make value retention. And also that can also create a more resilient productive economy. Much to this also, I think we need also to look at diversification of mineral resources, which is also something that Zambia is looking to cultivate.
Right.
So there are quite a number of elements that we are looking at strategically in terms of trying to push things in perspective. So the copper gain today is also giving shape to different other models of national development agenda.
Mr. Kelvin Chisanga, economist, thank you so much for taking us through the impact of copper on the Zambian
My
economy.
pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you
He
so
takes
much.
us to exactly 26 minutes after 6 p.m. Central African time.